In November 2025, 3 grandsons of the last Habsburg Empress opened a cardboard suitcase in a Quebec bank vault. Reporters from the New York Times were there. Inside, a yellow diamond the size of a walnut, a bracelet of brilliant cut diamonds wrapped around a large emerald, a clock pendant carved from a single wafer of green stone, and enough Habsburg history to fill 2 centuries. The suitcase had been sitting in that vault since around 1940. Nobody had touched it. And that yellow diamond, 137.27 carats, 126 facets, last documented in Vienna in 1918, had not been seen by the public in over 100 years. That diamond was the Florentine. It had been set into the personal crown of Francis Stephen, Holy Roman Emperor, Maria Theresa's husband of 29 years, and the man whose death would change everything she did next. Welcome back to Jewelry Pleasure, and if you're new here, this channel is exactly what it sounds like, the stories behind some of history's most extraordinary jewels. Today we're going deep into the collection of Empress Maria Theresa of Austria, ruler of the Habsburg lands for 40 years, mother of 16 children, and the woman whose single legal decision in 1765 is the reason any of these pieces still exist at all. If you want to follow along, subscribe and hit the notification bell. The wedding gown that started everything. Picture the Augustinian church in Vienna on the evening of the 12th of February, 1736. The nave is candlelit. The 18-year-old archduchess, not yet empress, not yet queen, just the daughter of a Holy Roman Emperor, is wearing a gown of silver thread fabric studded with diamonds and pearls, as if someone had pressed the night sky into silk. Beside her stands Francis Stephen, Duke of Lorraine, dressed in cloth of silver with the heavy gold chain of the Order of the Golden Fleece at his throat. Eyewitnesses recorded the gown in detail because they understood what they were watching. Not just a wedding, but the creation of a new dynasty. The House of Habsburg Lorraine began that night. And everything that followed, the Florentine Diamond, the Quebec Vault, the legal battles of 2025, traces back to this moment and this marriage. The silver thread state bed from that wedding, embroidered in silver and gold, still exists. You can see it today at Schönbrunn Palace in Vienna, displayed inside a climate-controlled vitrine in the so-called Rich Room. It is one of the very few objects that survives intact from the night Maria Theresa became a wife. The gown itself is gone. The Florentine Diamond. The diamond Maria Theresa is most closely associated with did not belong to her, at least not directly. It came with her husband. Francis Stephen inherited the Medici treasury when the last male Medici died in 1737, and with it came a stone that had been documented since 1657, when the French merchant and gem traveller Jean-Baptiste Taverny saw it in the Medici vaults in Florence. It had been cut in 1615 by a Venetian craftsman named Pompeo Studentali for Grand Duke Cosimo II, an irregular 9-sided double rose, 126 facets, pale yellow with the faintest green overtone. In 1865, the head of the Imperial Royal Court Mineral Cabinet, Dr. Moritz Herns, described the color as wine mixed tenfold with water. When Christophe Cockett examined it again in 2025, he said it looked like good Scotch whiskey. The weight, 137.27 carats. When Francis Stephen was crowned Holy Roman Emperor in Frankfurt in 1745, the Florentine was set into his personal crown. After the coronation, it was mounted as a hat aigrette, a decorative brooch for the brim, and that is how Maria Theresa wore it. Not as a necklace pendant or a ring stone, but pinned to a hat, at a slight angle, catching the light at state occasions in the way only a 137-carat diamond can. It sat in display case 13 of the Imperial Treasury in Vienna until the 1st of November, 1918, when Emperor Karl I ordered the family jewels removed before the Habsburg monarchy officially collapsed. A trusted aide took them to Switzerland. The Florentine vanished. Italy claimed it under the Treaty of Saint-Germain, citing the 1737 Medici family pact. The Inter-Allied Reparation Commission rejected the claim. Decades passed. The stone was presumed recut, presumed sold, presumed gone. It was none of those things. In November 2025, Karl von Habsburg-Lothringen sat with journalists from the New York Times and opened a bank vault box in Quebec. The diamond was there, still in its hat brooch mount, exactly as it had been photographed before the 1918 removal. Christoph Cockett, sixth-generation heir to Vienna's most storied jewelry house, compared it against the 1865 plaster cast and the surviving pre-1918 photograph. It matched. The Florentine Diamond had been in Canada for approximately 85 years. Austria has since opened an inquiry into whether the stone is private Habsburg property or should be returned as a state asset. That question is unresolved. The imperial crown and the Schatzkammer. Before the Quebec Revelation, this was the place to look for Maria Theresa's legacy. The Schatzkammer, the imperial treasury of Vienna, housed in the Schweizerhof wing of the Hofburg. She reorganized it. She moved it. She personally supervised the installation of the ecclesiastical display cases in 1747. The building as visitors experience it today, the layout, the sections, the sequence of rooms, is essentially her design. The crown she worked hardest to preserve is not a crown she ever wore. It was made in 1602 in Prague for the Emperor Rudolf II, by the court goldsmith Jan Vermeyen. Gold, white enamel, a mitre-shaped body rising to a high arched crown, with 8 large diamonds set into the circlet, the number 8 chosen deliberately, as a symbol of Christ in medieval numerology. Rubies, spinels, pearls, and 1 drilled antique sapphire at the cross. Height, 28.3 centimeters. The 4 enamel panels on the mitre are a miniature autobiography of Rudolf II. One shows him as Imperator, victorious over the Turks. One shows his coronation in Regensburg. One shows his investiture as King of Hungary in Pressburg. One shows the procession through Prague as King of Bohemia. It's basically a miniature biography in gold and enamel. Rudolf II documenting his own reign, panel by panel, in an object meant to be worn on his head. Maria Theresa never wore the Rudolfskrone. By tradition and by function, it was a man's crown. She preserved it, catalogued it, and ensured it survived as the working crown of her husband Francis Stephen and later her son Joseph II. Her grandson Franz II formally renamed it the Imperial Crown of Austria in 1804, adding a layer of meaning Maria Theresa hadn't given it but had made possible. The imperial orb and scepter that accompany it were made between 1612 and 1615 by the goldsmith Andreas Osenbruck. The scepter is popularly described as unicorn horn. It's actually narwhal tusk, which in the 17th century was considered the same thing and valued accordingly. All of it is still in the Schatzkammer. The crown, the orb, the scepter, entered through the Schweizertor gate, up the stairs, first room on the right. Maria Theresa has been gone for 245 years, but the organization of what you see is largely hers. The Hungarian coronation of 1741. The year was 1741. Maria Theresa had been on the throne for barely 8 months. Her father Charles VI had died, leaving the treasury almost empty, around 100,000 florins, which his widow immediately claimed. The army was in poor shape, and Frederick II of Prussia had just marched into Silesia and shown no interest in leaving. To secure Hungary, and with it, a substantial army, Maria Theresa had herself crowned at St. Martin's Cathedral in Pressburg, the city now called Bratislava, on the 25th of June, 1741. The ceremony used the holy crown of St. Stephen, which is, by tradition, a man's crown. It was modified to fit her head. She was styled not Regina, not Queen, but Rex Hungariae, King. After the anointing, she put on St. Stephen's mantle, accepted the orb and scepter, and then did something no one quite expected. She mounted a black charger, rode up the royal hill, a mound built from soil brought from every county in Hungary, and brandished St. Stephen's sword in the 4 cardinal directions. The Hungarian nobles watching are reported to have been moved enough to commit troops on the spot. Maria Theresa's jewels at her coronation are visible in the Van Maten's workshop portrait that still hangs in the Hofburg's Leopoldine wing. The Hungarian coronation dress, embroidered thickly with pearls and diamonds, a visible diamond stomacher at the bodice. No personal tiara. She was crowned with a 1,000-year-old relic, in a ceremony designed for kings. It suited her. The Holy Crown of St. Stephen is now in the Hungarian Parliament building in Budapest, displayed in its own guarded hall. The Order of Maria Theresa. On the 18th of June, 1757, the afternoon of the Austrian victory at the Battle of Kolin, which turned the 7 Years' War, Maria Theresa founded a military order and named it after herself. The military order of Maria Theresa was to reward not obedience but initiative. Officers who took decisive independent action, even when that meant disobeying orders, if the action succeeded. It was the only major European military order with that specific condition built into its charter. The insignia is a white enameled gold cross patty. At the center, a red and white enamel disc, the colors of the Austrian flag, with the single Latin word fortitudine, for courage. The reverse carries the linked monograms of Maria Theresa and Francis Stephen. In special presentations, for the most senior recipients, the cross was set in diamonds, emeralds, and rubies. Examples survive in the Schatzkammer and the Heeresgeschichtliches Museum in Vienna. From 1757 until 1931, when the order was last awarded, approximately 4,392 applications were received. 1,240 were granted. The rejection rate tells you something about what the Commission considered worthy of the cross. The Theresian Military Academy at Wiener Neustadt, the oldest military academy in the world still in continuous operation, founded by Maria Theresa in 1751, still uses the Order's cross as its emblem today. The 1765 Family Fund, the most important thing she ever did for her jewels. Francis Stephen died on the 18th of August, 1765, in Innsbruck, during a night of festivities. He was 56. Maria Theresa had him in her arms when he died. Within weeks she cut her hair short, painted her rooms black, and put on widow's weeds. She wore them for the remaining 15 years of her life. She also, in those first months of grief and with the consent of her son Joseph too, did something that would define Habsburg jewelry history for the next 2.5 centuries. She transferred the dynasty's jewels, all of them, including the Florentine Diamond and the entire contents of the imperial treasury that were private rather than state property, into a familian fideikommiss, a private family fund. The legal declaration was precise. These objects were the separate private property of the dynasty, not state property, and could not be claimed by any government. Nobody paid much attention at the time. It was administrative housekeeping. But in 1918, when the Habsburg monarchy collapsed and Emperor Karl I needed to take his family's possessions out of Austria before the new republic could claim them, that 1765 document was the legal foundation for everything he removed. When Italy argued at the post-war reparations commission that the Florentine Diamond was originally Medici property and belonged to the Italian state, the commission rejected Italy's claim in 1923, partly on the basis of that same fund. And when Karl von Habsburg opened the Quebec vault in 2025, it was still that 1765 declaration that his lawyers cited as the basis of the family's private ownership claim. Maria Theresa stopped buying jewels after 1765. She never commissioned a single piece of personal ornament for herself again. But this one legal act in the first year of her widowhood is the reason anything survived at all. The diamonds she sent to France. In April 1770, Maria Theresa sent her youngest surviving daughter to France to marry the heir to the French throne. Marie Antoinette was 14 years old. She was sent with a trousseau that included, according to the memoirs of her later lady-in-waiting Mme Campan, a splendid set of white diamonds. These were set or reset after her arrival by the Parisian jeweler Charles-Auguste Baymer, the same Baymer who would later be destroyed by his involvement in the affair of the diamond necklace. She was also sent with something more personal. A clock pendant. A large pear-shaped emerald, carved as a hinged case with a wafer-thin emerald cover, concealing a working clock inside. Maria Theresa gave it to her daughter as a keepsake. Most of what Marie Antoinette owned was lost in the Revolution or seized and sold by successive French governments. But not all of it. In March 1791, months before the family's failed flight to Varennes, Marie Antoinette packed what she could into a wooden chest and sent it through Brussels to Count Mercy Argenteau, her mother's former ambassador to France. That chest eventually made its way to Emperor Franz II of Austria, then to Marie Antoinette's surviving daughter Madame Royal, then through the Bourbon-Parma line for 4 generations. In November 2018, at Sotheby's Geneva, the Bourbon-Parma family sold the collection. Total, $53.1 million, a world record for any sale of royal jewels at that date. One pearl and diamond pendant from Marie Antoinette's own necklace, a natural pearl drop with a diamond bow. Sold for $36 million against an estimate of $1 to $2 million. A diamond parure made for Louise of France, containing 5 solitaire diamonds from Maria Theresa's original white diamond trousseau set, sold for $848,000. And in June 2025, 5 months before the Quebec vault opened, a 10.38 carat fancy purple-pink diamond, named the Marie Therese Pink for Madame Royal, attributed by tradition to Marie Antoinette, sold at Christie's New York for $13.98 million, a world record for a fancy pink diamond. As for the emerald clock, it was in the Quebec vault, still in its original mount. Maria Theresa's gift to her daughter, unseen for over a century. What survived, what was lost, and what is still missing? The Quebec vault contained the Florentine Diamond. It contained the sleigh ride cuff, a bracelet of brilliant cut diamonds set with a large central emerald, which Maria Theresa wore for the Viennese court's festive winter sleigh processions. It contained the emerald clock pendant. It contained Empress Elizabeth's Hungarian color ruby, emerald, and diamond bodice bow. It contained a diamond-encrusted badge of the Order of the Golden Fleece, hat pins, jeweled bows set with old-cut diamonds and yellow sapphires. The Habsburg family has said they will not sell. They intend to display the collection in a Canadian museum trust. Framed explicitly as gratitude to Canada for sheltering the family during the Second World War. Austria's government has opened an inquiry into whether the state has any ownership claim. But not everything came back. The 1918 removal inventory also listed a rose necklace, described in later sources as one of Maria Theresa's own pieces. It is not in Quebec. It is not in any known collection. It has never been accounted for. A brilliant cut diamond tiara with a 44-carat central diamond was listed in the same inventory. Also missing. The Habsburg emerald parure, tiara, corsage, necklace, traced through the collection from Maria Theresa to Marie Antoinette to Empress Elizabeth, is gone. Only the wafer emerald clock from that set surfaced in Quebec. The parure itself has not been found. Empress Elizabeth's diamond crown, made in 1867 using historic stones and pearls that had originally belonged to Maria Theresa, was taken to Switzerland in 1918 and broken up in the 1920s in what Austrian sources describe as a financial scandal in Bern. The pearls, reportedly from Maria Theresa's own multi-strand bracelets visible in the Van Maten's portraits, were dispersed. The diamonds were removed and sold. Nothing remains. Between the curatorial records she left on the Schatzkammer, the 1765 family fund, the Florentine in her hat, and the diamonds she packed into Marie Antoinette's trousseau, Maria Theresa did more to preserve Habsburg jewelry than any individual before or after her. And still, most of it is gone. A cardboard suitcase in a bank vault in Quebec. That's where this story ends, for now. Or maybe begins again, because Austria is investigating, and a Canadian museum trust is being arranged, and for the first time since 1918 the Florentine Diamond may be seen by the public. Maria Theresa is the least personally ornamented of the Habsburg empresses we tend to talk about. Unlike Sisi, she left no signature tiara. Unlike Marie Antoinette, she left no single pearl that sold for $36 million at auction. What she left was a legal document drawn up in grief, in the first months after her husband died, that turned out to be the most enduring piece of jewelry stewardship in the dynasty's history. Everything in that vault traces back to one 1765 document. Without it, Carl I has no legal basis for removing anything in 1918. Without the 1918 removal, nothing gets to Switzerland. Without Switzerland, nothing reaches Canada. The Florentine, the sleigh ride bracelet, the emerald clock Maria Theresa gave her daughter the morning she left Vienna. All of it survived because a grieving woman did some careful paperwork. If you want to see more of these stories, the people behind the jewels, the legal fights, the losses, the rediscoveries, subscribe to the channel and leave a comment below. I read them all.